All right, what up, good people? We are back for another incredible episode of the Planning Podcast. We have someone that I would call a friend, a leader, a mentor. Actually, as I was going through my own transition out of football, this was the first person I sat down with that had enough trust in me to give, I would really say, share relationships that he's been able to establish professionally. And we'll get into that during our stories. So, very excited to have here with us the good old legendary Martin Newton.
What's up, Coop?
What's up, big dog?
Oh, man.
Great, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Since I started a story like that, I might as well go ahead and finish it. So, as you know, most athletes navigate is the inability to be able to transition out of sports while maintaining some type of identity. That's probably one of the things that challenged me, considering that I chose like football was, I would say I inherited it as an identity, not properly, right? Didn't give it the right priority. But within that, when the ball stops, right, there is this responsibility from the neck up to really figure out life. Mm-hmm. And so Martin was someone I was able to sit down with, in which when I first sat down with him, it was Mr. Newton. You know,
that never felt right. That never felt right.
But as you can see, just from the DAP, I was like, all right, well, hey, he a little different, bro. He got some flavor to him. And so there was a level of trust that I had to be transparent and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to do. And there were 3 names on a card that I still have to this day. And this was in 2012. So 13 years ago. Yeah, I don't even like that.
I know.
So 13 years ago, it was Greg Powell.
Yep.
It was Robbie Robertson.
Yep.
And it was Alan Register.
Yep.
Alan Register was the president of BBVA Compass. We had the Colonnade Group with Robbie Robertson and Greg Powell. I believe he still runs. Five Plan Partners, mm-hmm. Right? And a huge wealth management practice. And it wasn't that I got the email. It's the fact that I got the cell phone number.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, that confidence that I had leaving there, it was more of making sure that I represented you right in those relationships. It actually birthed a lot of things that I probably can't even put my finger on right now. And so I know I've said it before, but publicly, I wanted to say, Martin, thank you, boss.
Man, that was an easy one right there. If that's all I did, man, that was easy. I'd do that all over again. No, that was I remember that meeting. That was a cool meeting. Because you always get student athletes or acquaintances will come up and want your advice, but then the reality of it is they're really not listening to your advice. They want a job or they want something. You really wanted advice. You wanted some guidance. And so for me, it was like, yeah, man, this is real. So let's figure out this young man's interested. He's hungry.
Yeah.
He's hungry. You're still hungry.
That's
but
right.
You were hungry then.
Come on now. You got that right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Yeah, so it was good.
So I would love to get into just the story of Martin Newton, right? And so our introduction came when you were introduced as the athletic director of Sanford University, which I'm still my athletic director. If at some point 20 years from now, I'm like, nah, my AD Martin Newton, all right? But with that being said, there is exposure that you've been able to witness and experience that I think will be really helpful for our audience to be able to learn and glean from as they raise families, as they lead in their own space. And so Martin Newton at a young age, tell us about who he was. I know that you have a sports background as well. So tell us about just your interest in sports and when did that really start?
Yeah, so I was born into to a coach. My dad was a coach. He was a coach at Transylvania University. I guarantee you, your audience got no clue where Transylvania. It's in Lexington, Kentucky. It ain't got nothing to do with Dracula or any of that kind of stuff. But he was a coach, basketball coach. And then he got the job in 1968 at the University of Alabama. I'll tell you a quick funny story there. So he gets the job. He's making $15,000 a year at Transylvania as the basketball coach, and he was teaching a class. And he gets a job at Alabama. Bear Bryant offered him the job, and he just assumed he's going to be making more money. So we get to Tuscaloosa, and he sees his contract. He's making $3,000 less.
Oh, hold on.
Making $2,500. He's making $12,500 a year, and he was scared to death of Bear Bryant, so he wasn't going to say anything to Bear Bryant. Hardest conversation he had to have in his life was with my mom, about that he was taking a pay cut to go to Tuscaloosa. But so I grew up with a coach. I mean, in fact, my kids, they all called him Coach. That was his. He wasn't grandpa or granddad. He was coach. But I also grew up with somebody that never pushed anything on any of his children. Got 2 sisters, never pushed any. We were all completely different. I just being the only son, I gravitated towards sports, man. I mean,
Right.
I just loved it. I love it. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was basketball, football, baseball. My best sport was football. I should have been like you and played football,
Yeah.
but
What position?
I was quarterback and defensive back.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
that was back
Okay.
in the old days where you ran the triple option because that's
Yeah.
what Alabama ran.
Athlete.
But I just nenever got pushed towards anything. It was kind of, what do you want to do? And
Right.
so I was really blessed, man. I mean,
Right.
he was a great dad. Took me everywhere I was. We traveled all over the world, Japan, Guatemala, different places doing basketball clinics and stuff.
Mhm.
So I just grew up with it. Sports is just kind of in my DNA.
Mm. With that type of exposure, I know one of the things we tell the students in a classroom is that save your money and go get a passport.
Yeah.
How did that global exposure shift some of your thinking at a young age?
It just exposes you to things. We all live in. You go to a small school.
Yep.
You're gonna have about 5 really good friends.
Right.
You go to a big school. You're gonna have about 5 really good friends. You go
Right.
to a small church, a big. You gonna but what it does is it gets you out of that small sphere that you're in, and it lets you see things that you go, wow, I had no idea that this is how other people do things, or this is how people interact, or I mean, different cultures. Being around all the different cultures. I mean, you kind of think, again, you're a product of your environment.
Right.
You get to see how other people do things and realize that, yeah, this ain't the only way to do stuff. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, man. And everybody's got their own value system and their own beliefs, and that's cool. That's all right.
Right. Right.
Respect those.
Yeah.
And so that was the beauty for me, is just being able to be exposed to so many different people and backgrounds and ethnicities. And it just, I think it's really shaped the man I am today.
That's incredible, and I feel like it is consistent with what the world knows about your father, C.M. Newton. Him being very intentional, but also at the same time, we'll just say grounded in the decisions that he was making. Specifically, once he moved to Alabama.
Yeah.
And so, while at Alabama, there is a number of wins that he was able to establish. One being recruiting the first Black athlete to the University of Alabama. I believe Wendell
Hudson.
Yeah,
Hud.
Shout out Wendell
brother.
Hudson. I think, and he's from Birmingham too.
He's from Birmingham, that Parker High School, man. Wendell Hudson. Went to a lot of his high school basketball games, man. Yeah.
How was that as a child? Because we all know it's maybe a little tight in regards of the reception of it. Yeah. But when you are pioneering, would you say, work like this and decisions like this, unfortunately, there is the inheritance of how this impacts your family as well. So how was that as a young child?
Because he didn't bring stuff home. He was dad at home, so you never really felt it. Now there was a couple, and I'll share a couple of those situations. But you got to understand, this was 1968, 69 in Alabama. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't too many years prior that George Wallace stood in the schoolhouse door at the University of Alabama and keeping, trying to keep the university segregated.
Yep.
And so, so that was that in itself. And Coach Bryant was not opposed to having Black athletes at Alabama, but he just never did.
Yeah.
Wendell Hudson is the one that deserves all the courage, because Wendell Hudson, I want you to think about this, Coop.
Yeah.
Imagine being the only person of color in an athletics dorm, because that's when they had athletic dorms. So you got all these football players, you got all these other basketball players, and you're the only person of color. The only people that look like you are the people that are serving you your food. Can you imagine that courage? I mean, my dad had an ESPN documentary done on Courage Matters. It wasn't his courage. It was easy. Hud could play.
Yeah.
He didn't care if it was black, white, green, yellow. That dude could play.
Right.
He wanted somebody to make him a good coach, but that dude, the courage that he had to go accept a scholarship at the University of Alabama when everybody was telling him, man, you don't want to go there. And yet his mother asked my dad one question: how are you going to treat my son? And he said, I'm not going to treat him any different than I treat everybody on this team. Right. So again, I think he was a pioneer in that regards, but it really wasn't him as much as it was Hud.
Right. And that's a incredible story. And even thinking about some of the, I would say, policy he influenced. I believe after the first year of HUD playing, the away games, as you can imagine, weren't friendly.
You don't want to go to Mississippi.
No. And so, and we all know of, I guess they call it healthy banter that may occur But sometimes lines are crossed, and probably all the time the lines were crossed while they were playing. And if I remember correctly, he was actually able to change some of the policy on where the visitor sat. Is that?
Yeah. No. So what happened was they played a game at it was either Ole Miss or Mississippi State, and the students were right behind the bench, and the what HUD had to endure was brutal. And in fact, he tells the story when they got back, they were driving back in the bus coming back from the game, and they got into the Alabama state line, and HUD went up and said, "Will you stop the bus?" He stopped the bus, he got out and he kissed the ground, glad he was back in Alabama. But what he did was he just said, "Look, this isn't right for any human being to be treated this way."
Right.
And so the SEC moved the students from being right behind, wouldn't allow them to be right behind the bench, the visiting team bench anymore.
Wow.
And now look, there were still slurs, there were still all kinds of things that were said, but it wasn't 24/7, 360 while you're in that game right behind you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful illustration, even going back to HUD's mother saying, "Are you going to take care of my son?"
That's right.
And not only he did that, but there were others that came after him that were able to benefit and not have to take on that burden. So being exposed, so it looks like, coach is holding it down, being a basketball coach. You're seeing a lot of basketball games.
Yep.
What sport did you gravitate towards to start playing and saying, "All right, let me hold this"?
Yeah, basketball. And I'll tell you why. Football I thought was crazy. One, it was the South. It was 110 degrees in the summer. Now look, back then you didn't take water breaks. The way they punished you is if the coach is mad, you're just not drinking water. It's like, wait a minute, dude, 110 degrees. Today you'd have 1,000 lawsuits.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind being out in the heat, but I was like, basketball's an indoor sport. You ain't got to play in the rain. You ain't got to do all that kind of stuff. And I just loved it. I was really good at dribbling the basketball. I did all these ball handling drills and spinning drills, and I was really good at it. And I did a commercial for Converse Shoe Company. I was like 12 years old.
Really?
And so I started getting, and you know how it is, man, when your ego gets boosted up. So like at 12 years old, people tell me how good I am at doing all this stuff. So that's why I gravitated towards basketball. I was better at football, but I gravitated towards basketball just because, one, he was the coach, but I was getting little, some accolades. People would get little attaboys, patting me on the back. I was pretty good at this stuff. Yeah, so basketball's always, it's been a lifelong obsession. I'm still obsessed with it.
Yeah, and you played basketball at Sanford.
I did.
What led you to say, you know what, Sanford University?
So I didn't want to go. I got recruited by some schools up north, Cornell. I got recruited by Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State, I probably would have gone there, but they signed another point guard at the same time that could really play. And I was like, I ain't going to beat that joker out. Sanford, I came here and I met a guy named Steve Barker, who was a year ahead of me. And he was the only dude I'd ever met that liked basketball as much as I did. Every other visit that I would go on, it was all about partying.
Right.
And I didn't party. I wasn't into that kind of stuff. Now I was cocky, but I wasn't into all that kind of stuff. And so, but I met Steve and I was like, all right, this dude's into basketball too. Yeah. So, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it was a great experience. There was parts of me that couldn't stand Sanford. I thought Sanford probably did more to hurt my faith than it did anything at the time. I thought it was some of the most hypocritical people I'd ever met because I just wanted to hoop.
Right.
So, but I didn't go to church on Wednesday night.
Right.
And these jokers would come in the dorm drunk on Saturday, getting on me for not going to church, and they'd be coming in the dorm drunk on Saturday, right? And I'd be like, I'd be in the gym, but y'all mad at me because I ain't going, So it probably did more to hurt my faith than it did anything. And but at the end of the day, it was a good decision. Because it's all. I think you learn more from bad situations and failures than you do from good situations.
Absolutely. I know that there's a level of tension and frustration that I dealt with in a number of experiences, even at my time at Sanford, that ended up yielding assets that the university could use just by bringing an authentic perspective.
That's right.
And knowing that, hey, in order for us to be consistent, there are some things that we need to acknowledge. Right. And so are there any memorable experiences that you had playing ball at Sanford? Are there a particular game? Did you give somebody a wop and
I had a good freshman year. Had a really good freshman year. Started as a point guard. We played Andrew Toney. So you too young to even know who Andrew Toney is. But Andrew Toney, the old folks that are listening to this podcast, especially from Birmingham, they know who Andrew Toney.
Okay.
He was the assassin. Played for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay.
He was on that team with Dr. J and Moses that won all those championships. He could flat out score. Played at Glenn High School. My man could. He played at Southwest Louisiana, which is now, God, what's the name of that school now? Anyway, played at Southwest Louisiana. They were leading the nation in scoring. I had to guard him my freshman year, his senior year, held him to 22 points. But he was really good. And I just remember playing against Andrew and playing well against Andrew. A couple other games, I played against my dad's team. He went to Vanderbilt as the coach my junior year, and we played against them 2 days before Christmas, which was miserable. It was miserable, but yeah, that was fun. But again, basketball, man, it's brought in so many good and bad memories.
Right. Are there any transferable skills through the lens of sports that you've been able to use today? It could be communication.
Yeah.
It could be what are some of the skills that you remember being a college athlete or just in sports in general, that's something that you're still using today?
So, my dad used to always say, and every coach I ever had, you probably had coach say that, there's the two things that you can always control, right, is your attitude and your effort. That's right. I mean, those are just two things that you can control. So today I still feel that those are things that our team, our staff can control, your attitude and your effort. You got bad attitude, you got bad effort, that's on you. That ain't on nobody else.
Right.
And so those are things that I always heard playing. I always heard from coaches. I think the other thing is just to be resilient. Yeah. To just realize you're not going to win all the time. You're not going to make every shot. You're not going to have the best play every time. And so you got to be resilient. You got to be able to say, when life kind of kicks you in the ass, you got to be able to say, yeah, you know what? That's part of it. I've been through that, man. We got our brains beat out against this team, or man, that practice was ridiculous and we're throwing up and everybody's miserable. But you know what? You're resilient. I can bounce back from it. Right. And I think we lose that so much. We've kind of become where we want everything easy now. Yep. Life ain't easy, man.
That's right.
Life ain't easy. And so you got to be able to be resilient and put your pants on, and get back up, and and dust the dirt off and the blood off, and just go, I'm gonna be all right. Yeah, I've been through this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that social media has created, where they, that easy button. All you got to do is, especially you get on a TikTok clip, folks think they could, go start a business in 12 minutes and make $1 million. Like, it don't work like that.
That's exactly
man.
right.
So,
you're right.
So that's a good takeaway. So, as you were at Sanford, what did you study?
I was a finance major. Kind of bounced all over the place, to be honest with you. I was looking for what was easiest. Yeah. If I'm going to be truthful. Yeah. I was looking to just get that degree and then get the heck out. Like all of us, I thought I was going to play pro sports until about halfway through my freshman year. And I was like, that ain't going to happen. So I was a finance major. I went education as well. But then I ended up going into finance because I started thinking, this is a skill that will carry with me the rest of my life. Maybe a little bit harder than some of the other stuff, especially when I took that statistics class. But I just felt like that was something that I could always carry with me, right? You can always, all the compound interest or having to do this. I just always felt like having some kind of a knowledge in finance would be, regardless of what I did. I thought I wanted to coach, but I knew I wanted to be in sport. Right. And so I took that commercial I did with Converse when I was 12 and parlayed that into a job at Converse. And I really didn't do much with finance at all. You do, but you don't, right? But so I initially it was just what's going to be the easiest thing.
Yeah, and that's a perfect transition. So leveraging the relationship that you established with Converse, can you tell us some of the roles that you had? So for those that may be thinking, is that Chuck Taylor's? Yes, we call those Chucks. And so can you share with us just the role that you had at Converse and then just what you were able to do?
So Converse, back in the late 70s, 79, 80, Converse was the brand. Nike was just getting on Nike was not really that big, but Converse was it. We had everybody. We had Magic, Bird, Isaiah, Dr. J. I mean, all the athletes, Tony Dorsett. I mean, everybody wore Converse. Yeah. And so I started with them in 1971, 21 years old, right out of Sanford. Went to North Carolina. I was a sales and promotions rep. So back then you had a territory. I had the state of North Carolina. I spent half my time selling to retail outlets, sporting goods stores. The other half of the time dealing with the colleges that were there. I was kind of their promotion guy. So that's where I got to meet Michael Jordan for the first time. He was a young cat that was still playing at North Carolina, hated Converse, but I'm like his age. So we could talk, right? We talked the same language. So he was always wearing Adidas. And so I got to know Michael and just say, look, man, we got to figure out how we keep you happy in Converse. So we had a special make shoe for him.
Really?
And so it was expensive to do. So I had a guy came down, they took the mold of his feet, went back, made this shoe for Michael. They'd only last about 2 games and then he'd have to get a new pair. So there's a guy on their team by the name of Buzz Peterson. Buzz is a dear friend of mine. Buzz was Mr. Basketball in the state of North Carolina. And Buzz saw that we special made a shoe for Michael. Now he wanted a special make shoe. Buzz Peterson wasn't Michael Jordan. We were spending that kind of money. So this is, but it was a great lesson for me because it taught me how to think outside the box and be creative. So I'm like, all right, we're not going to special make a shoe for Buzz. So I called my same guy that measured Michael's feet. I said, I want you to do the same thing for Buzz. Come down here, measure Buzz's feet, but then take those shoes that we usually put them in a plain white box like Michael's got with MJ 12.5 and put one for Buzz. And so not special make shoes, just the box. So he did. B. Peterson, 13s. Send the box in here. Buzz goes to practice a couple days later. He goes, man, them the best shoes I've ever worn. I was like, dude, they were the same shoes you were wearing 3 weeks ago. But it you know what? Right. It's creativity, man. I was like, okay. So that was the Converse gig. I did sales and promotion for them in North Carolina, and then eventually I ended up managing the sports marketing reps around the country. They eventually changed from sales and promotions to where we had a sales force and we had a sports marketing force. Right. That's how old I am. We didn't even call it sports marketing. And so I managed the reps around the country.
When did Jordan get with Nike? That was after
he graduated in 84. So he was with Nike right then, as soon as he graduated.
So
or he didn't graduate. He left school in 84.
So we could probably go on a limb and say the first custom made shoe for Jordan was through Converse.
The first, yes, absolutely. We custom made shoes for our pro guys like Bird, Magic, Jay. Those guys all had custom made shoes. Michael had a Clarino leather custom made shoe.
Are those still is that still?
Now it looked like the other shoes that the cats were wearing, but it was a completely different shoe. It was Clarino leather. It was lightweight. Right. They were sweet. They were expensive.
Yeah. I wonder if those are still available. I wonder if he still has those.
That'd be an interesting question. He might.
Yeah.
He might. It'd be worth a fortune.
That's
I should have held on to a pair if I'd only known. Right. Hey, I remember in a Converse meeting, Coop, you'll appreciate this, man. We're sitting at a Converse meeting when he comes out to be drafted, and the Converse guys, the higher ups, the vice presidents, they thought Sam Perkins, who was on that team, was going to be a better pro than Michael Jordan. And I'm sitting there. I've been watching these guys play pickup games in the little gym in North Carolina against all the Duke guys and the NC State guys. Right. That guy right there is different, man. They thought Sam Perkins was going to be a predator. So Converse really didn't we made a push, right? But he was going to be part of the stable. He wasn't going to be on his own. Right. Nike, he didn't want to go with Nike. He wanted to go with Adidas.
So that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully Jordan sees this clip and he can say, he actually still got the shoes.
If he got them shoes, you and I we could retire on that. Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So there's definitely a good bit of communication that you had to do on behalf of the company as you're going from, one territory to another or one store to another, just to have the value proposition explained, and explain, X, Y, and Z. And I do want to point that out as a transferable skill because we got a number of athletes that watch the podcast. And unfortunately, that neck up type of value proposition isn't talked about enough in the locker room because they want to see you execute either on the court or on the field or, wherever it may be. So just wanted to just pull that out on how important it is to be able to speak with confidence. I really feel like the exposure, because even as you were explaining it, like there's a level of confidence that you got to have about yourself and what you're bringing to the table to be able to speak and talk about something you didn't necessarily create, but you have to represent.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think, Coop, that it starts with being who you are. Not trying to be something you're not, being authentic to who you are. Because if you're not authentic to who you are, then it doesn't matter how well you speak or how poorly you speak. Right. You're not real. So I think you got to be real. But then you've also got to be. It goes back to what we talked about earlier about exposing yourself to different groups, so that you can, because not everybody speaks and hears the same way. Right. That's right. They don't hear the same way. So you have to be able to communicate based on your audience. Right. I think the mistake that a lot of athletes make is they come up in this world of being around all the athletes and this is how we talk and this is the language we use and this is the jargon and the slang and all that kind of stuff. And then you get out in a different setting and you're still trying to speak like that.
That's right.
They don't hear you. They don't understand you. And so I think it's really important to expose yourself to different groups at an early age so that you understand the different ways that people hear.
Right.
Because people won't listen to you
Yeah.
if you don't talk the way they want to hear. But again, I go back to the first thing I said. You got to remain authentic, though.
Right.
You got to remain authentic to you.
Right.
You can't be fake about it.
That's exactly right.
But you got to be able to speak so that people can hear.
Absolutely. You can still keep it real and say words like vernacular and pontificate and still have a a level of flavor to to what you represent. And I do think, as you mentioned, not enough of that is represented in an authentic way. Because there's just so much uncertainty of what they're going to do, how they're going to become. And so if there's an identity issue, then there's no way that they can stand with confidence, right, as they should. So the time at Converse, how many years?
13.
Okay. When did you say it's time to shoot the deuces, and why?
It was a hard decision, man. I was loyal to Converse. I did a commercial for them guys, and so it was a really hard decision. But we had some issues with we'd bought a company that we ended up having to declare them bankrupt. We wanted to get into the apparel business. Nike was booming in the mid 90s. And so it was like the handwriting was on the wall, and they reached out to me and asked if I would be interested. And at first I wasn't. And my wife kind of looked at me and she's like, yeah, you're interested.
Yeah.
And so I had to put aside some of those loyalties that I had for Converse. I mean, look, I was the guy that taught my kids when they were little to say Nike sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, we were Converse, right? But once I went out and met with the people at Nike, it was like, yeah, this is the next wave. This is, and that's the hardest part a lot of us make, is being willing to get out of our comfort zone and take that risk to be willing to say, yeah, I need to try this. This is the future. You got to be able to look beyond just today and that paycheck and what's going on now, and be able to look, okay, what's this going to look like 5-10 years from now? 5-10 years from now, Nike was where everything was going. Converse was kind of going back here.
Yeah. And that's, typically when you think about innovation or having an innovative thinking or even leader, sometimes you only think about like technology.
Right.
Right. And versus visualizing what you may anticipate in the future based off of what you could see today.
That's right.
What were some of the, would you say, strategic placements or strategic alignments when you think about the difference between Converse and Nike? So Converse had an approach. Nike now has this, new wave of we'll just say market that they're looking to penetrate. What stood out to you?
I think the biggest difference, Converse was an old established brand, been around a long time. Chuck Taylors had been around for everybody. I mean, those were your grandfather's shoes and your great grandfather's shoes, and they had a certain way of doing things. Their motto was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Then you go to this company like Nike that is completely always talking about there is no finish line. They're talking about innovation and all these things. And the motto there was quite just the opposite. If it ain't broke, break it.
Yeah.
and because again, the market, again, things shift. I mean, even now things continue to shift. And if you get stuck in a certain way of doing things, which is what Converse did, it's how we've always done it. It's based on relationships. It's based on this. Then you're going to wind up being bankrupt like we were several times. In fact, Nike ended up buying Converse when I was with Nike. Whereas Nike's mentality was always trying to figure out and innovate. What's the next thing? What's the next market? Let's not wait for the market to set the trend. Let's us go set the market. And so I think that was the biggest difference for me. And I think it just, what it instilled in me is that you cannot just sit back and wait for things to happen. If you want to be great, then you have to go make things happen. You have to trendset. That's why I'm so proud of you, man. I look at what you're doing. I'm going, man, you've taken the finance degree, the financial planning, and you've taken it to a whole different realm of, okay, I'm going to go educate people. I'm not going to wait. The market may not be here yet. You're creating a market. And man, that's a hard thing to do. Most people are scared to death to do that. But to me, that's the only way you can be great.
That's right. It definitely requires innovation. It requires being ahead of the curve. And again, being ahead of the curve, you're not going to be able to see what's around the curve, and then most folks aren't going to be able to see it. What? Very scary. Because
especially all them little ones you got now.
Come on now, you got some other heartbeats you got to work through, think through, and so appreciate that. So, what were some of the roles? And even as you were sharing, I was like, wow, that Converse Nike transition is like Blockbuster and Netflix. Like you saw that coming. Like, all right, well, take place. It's over. What were some of your roles at Nike now that you transitioned out of college?
So I started off with Nike. I was doing our NBA apparel. So they knew they were going to put me in college basketball because that's where all my relationships were. But I started off, I did our Nike apparel. So the league at the time, the NBA, was all champion. They did every one of the teams did champion. And so they decided to split it up. Nike ended up with 10 teams. We had like the Bulls, the Celtics. We got the good teams. The Bulls, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Portland Trailblazers, San Antonio with David Robinson and that crew. And so I went in and worked with the league office and the marketing people in the league office to develop a new system for how they did apparel. They were so old and set in their ways, as was champion. Players had no input. They had no input. They had no input on the uniforms. They had no input on the field. They had no input on fabric. The teams had very little input.
Wow.
Like if you wanted to change a design, you had to go to the league office and get that done. I'll never forget. We go out, we meet with Jerry West. He's the logo, right?
Right.
He's at the Lakers. The Lakers had 2 colors of uniforms. They had a purple and they had a gold. What didn't they have? Every team in the league has it. White.
Yeah.
They didn't have a home white uniform.
Yeah.
Gold was their home white uniform. So Nike came up and said, hey, man, we need to do a white uniform for the Lakers. So we take this thing out and we show Jerry West at his house. I'll never forget it. One of the greatest days of my life. This is the logo, man.
Yes, right.
So I'm sitting at his house. We're showing him this white uniform. He's losing it. He loves this white uniform, right?
Yeah.
So we go back. I think it's a slam dunk.
Easy breezy.
Go back to the league office. No, they can't do white. They can do black, but they can't do white. I'm like, what are you guys talking about?
Right.
They got a white uniform.
Yeah.
And that was something that we ended up pushing and eventually changed the entire way that the NBA did their uniforms. Now, the players had input. We changed fabrics. We talked about comfort. We talked about giving the players more input on the uniforms.
Right.
And so that was my first role that I had with Nike. And then eventually I went into the college basketball side of things where I was negotiating contracts with coaches and schools, servicing those coaches and schools, kind of the liaison. I was a relationship guy with all the coaches.
There is, I'm really just extracting this pattern from CM Newton, Martin Newton, being a champion of the athletes. Because very similar to CM, making sure that their voice was heard and protected and prioritized. Because at the end of the day, front office, they're not wearing a jersey.
Yeah.
Athletes are. Yeah. Right. So they know what it needs to feel, how heavy it needs to be. And there's a level, that's why I like Coach Prime. You look good, you play good.
That's
so there's
right.
a level of swag that come with it as well. And so just being that pioneer to inform them, and it is very helpful to have, Jerry West saying, man, I love it. You can, like that's the voice that could, you could support, but that is truly incredible. All right. So Nike, now during this time at, would say Converse and Nike, at what point does Coach say, all right, I'm done with coaching? Is that at Converse, Nike, or he's still coaching at this time?
So he went from coaching at Vanderbilt to I was with Converse to the athletics director at Kentucky. I'm still with Converse. And so it wasn't until 96 that I transitioned to Nike.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, but he was still at Converse at that time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you transition out of Nike. How many years?
13.
13 years. Are there any contracts or negotiations that stick out or that probably kept you up? Like, man, we got to get this deal done, but unfortunately, we got to make sure this person understands. Yeah. What stories stick out that you've been able to really kind of extract some of the best practices around negotiation and positioning?
Interesting question. So one sticks out for sure. Tom Izzo. Izzo was at Michigan State. Tom Crean was his assistant coach, went on to coach at Marquette, Coach Dwayne Wade at Marquette. Tom and I were good friends. And Izzo was with Reebok and was making a lot more money than we were going to offer, but we just hit it off. The relationship with Tom Crean, and I was brutally honest with him in the whole negotiations. I said, look, you're not going to make as much money with us as you are with Reebok, but here's what it's going to do for your program. It's going to take you from here to where you're good to where now all of a sudden you're recruiting the top athletes and you're going to compete for national championships. They won a national championship in 1999 wearing Reeboks. They had signed with Nike right after that. And I was the guy, because of the relationship, I was the guy that was at their after party, not the Reebok guy. It was me.
Yeah.
But that showed me how important relationships were, that it wasn't just about the bottom line, the dollar.
Right.
The other incident I probably shouldn't say this, but I hope the other one that sticks out is, so I'm just with Nike. I'm just doing the college basketball stuff. I get this a labor attorney from Washington, D.C. calls me.
Okay.
And he says, big shot, right? He comes in, he wants to meet me. So he comes into Lexington, Kentucky. I'm living in Lexington at the time. And we're sitting down in Lexington, and he first thing he says, he's got his suit on with this thing. And, I'm like,
yeah.
And the first thing he says to me is, well, I've got 2 deals on the table for coach at Maryland and coach at Syracuse, both longtime Nike guys, and friends. And he goes, if you don't do this, this, and this, I'm taking this one to LA Gear and I'm taking this one to Adidas.
Oh, okay.
Well, the minute he said this, he put them both in breach of contract. And I knew this because in their contract, we have right of first negotiations.
Yeah.
So he's got both of them now are in breach of contracts.
Right.
Plus, I know the guys and I know this is BS. He's not doing this. Right. So I just played dumb. Man. Yeah. I'm just kind of sitting there listening. And I'm like, oh man, you can't. I can't lose those guys. They'll fire me if I lose those guys. Tell me what you need. This guy goes on for hours. Yeah. I need this for this guy. I need this for this. And I'm just sitting there listening to him. The minute this joker gets up and leaves and gets on his plane, he's thinking, man, I got this little sucker. I picked up the phone and called our legal counsel and I said, Adam, I need you to put a letter together for this coach and this coach, send it to them and say that this guy just put them in breach of contract. Do they really want to? And both of the coaches called me and just started like, no, we're good, man. He doesn't speak. One of them got mad. The other one just kind of laughed. But again, sometimes when you listen more than you talk,
right.
And I just kind of listened to this guy. I just kind of, once he started that, I just kind of shut down and listened to this guy and just let him walk himself right into the grave.
Right. Oh my goodness, there's so many thoughts. One is being aware of what's in a contract.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Even as
or at least you're not going to know but you got to know the general.
At least,
you've got to know
and it's I'm starting to synthesize just some of the issues that we've been seeing through the lens, and we'll talk through it, of just name, image, and likeness of athletes signing contracts, but not necessarily being aware of just some of the meat of it. They should at least be able to speak to, and so just to be within that conversation, and to have that posture, right, and to know that the strategy is really yielding in the relationship. And so there's this consistent pattern of having the relationship.
That's right.
And then if there's someone else that's trying to broker something on behalf of it, well, I can get straight to the source. Absolutely. Right. I don't need to use an extension cord to get to the wall. Right. And so, all right. So Nike, we got some negotiation, we got engagement with different colleges and universities, still positioning a value proposition. And now we are operating under the prism of a college and university.
Yeah.
Which one is that and what are you doing?
All right. So I leave Nike. I got tired of traveling. After 9/11, traveling was no fun, man. Getting on planes was no fun. And I was traveling all over the country. So I leave. I started helping ADs hire coaches.
Wow.
So because I knew them all. They were all my best friends.
Right.
So Anthony Grant gets the Alabama job. I did that search. Sean Miller gets the Arizona's job. I did that search. So I was helping these coaches. Well, one of them that I helped was Calipari at Kentucky.
Okay.
They had really screwed up the hire before. They hired a guy by the name of Billy Gillespie. And I told the AD, I said, man, I'm going to tell you, you need to rethink this.
Yeah.
This guy's, but they hired him. It was a disaster. It was a train wreck. 2 years later, he's out the door.
Yeah.
So I helped Cal get involved with Kentucky. And in that process, he said, man, you got a pretty good feel for this stuff. Why don't you come be on my staff? You're living in Lexington. Why don't you come be on my staff? And I said, I'll do it under one condition. You coach the team and you let me run the administrative side of things. And so I went, and it was I was only there 2 years. I was there a year and a half before I got a call from Converse. So I wasn't there long, but we were good. That first team we had with DeMarcus Cousins and John Walls and Eric Bledsoe. And we were the best team in the country and got beat in the Elite Eight. The second team ended up going to the Final Four. It was a great experience, but then my alma mater called.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, I didn't want the job at first when I came down and interviewed. But to be honest with you, it was meeting Jeremy Towns. He was part of the interview. And I thought, man, if this is the kind of guys that Sanford's putting out, it blew me away because it wasn't what I had pictured in my mind. I still had the 1979 Sanford in my mind.
Right.
And it was completely different. I thought, all right.
Interesting, because two different schools, University of Kentucky, Sanford University.
You think? budget, yeah.
Definitely different experiences on campus.
Yeah.
alongside the city in which you're operating in, right? And so,
Yeah.
um, are there any memorable experience? Because now I'm even thinking about just the energy, the execution that was there with those types of athletes that perform. But just seeing, and if you could just speak to, I'm really interested on that delineation between, all right, you run a team, but let me run this admin
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
and how that helped really your experience on placing ADs, on knowing how, you know, the admin side functions
Yeah.
and complements what happens on the
Yeah.
court or on the field. Can you share a little bit more about like how you were able to come in and really run the show that way without, you know, being a legacy employee?
Yeah, and this is not a knock on Cal because I love
Mhm.
John Calipari. He's a great man and a good person. But unfortunately for Cal, at his previous two stops, Memphis and UMass, they had gotten in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Now I will tell you, knowing the real story, I don't think Cal did anything wrong. They just didn't dot I's and cross T's.
Yep. Yep.
He told Marcus Camby at UMass, tell the truth.
Yeah.
If the agent gave you something, then you need to tell the truth.
Right.
The other school that was involved in that, they lied about it.
Right.
Cal told the truth.
Yeah.
Or told the player to tell the truth. The other school at Memphis, it was just they just didn't pay attention to details. And so what I didn't want him to do, if I was going to be in the middle of helping him get the job there and then working for him, I didn't want the same thing to happen. So I said, look, that's why, and college athletics, I don't care what you do. You have to approach it as a business.
Yes. Yep.
And so to me, it's a business. So a lot of the same principles that we had, whether it was at Nike or Converse, were the same principles that we tried to have there. We were going to have staff meetings. We were going to have a strategic plan. We were going to know what we were doing from an administrative side point. We were going to make sure all the compliance was buttoned up, all the financial aid was buttoned up. And so that's what that's my expertise. That's what I can bring to the table of 26 years in the business world.
Right. Right.
And so it worked perfect.
Yeah.
He left Kentucky with no blemishes, not one dead gum thing.
Yeah.
Now he's at Arkansas killing.
Most entrepreneurs, if they were able to approach their business that way and have someone handle all of the operations, the systems, the compliance, the infrastructure, we would have more successful entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Right. And that's one of the things that you see if someone is great at baking cakes, but when it comes to that cash register, it's like, hey,
know your strengths, know who you are.
I just need to be back here baking this cake, you know,
man.
and so for him to have someone like you to have access to, as you mentioned, I believe that's yielded a ton of success, and we've all been able to.
Yeah, you sound like that $11 million contract. I'm sitting down here starving in Sanford. My man's but it's true, man, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier of knowing who you are, man. You got to know who you are. You got to be comfortable with who you are, and if you can't do something, you can't do it all.
That's right.
I love you. You got a lot of good skill sets, but man, that young lady over there,
that's right.
She knows what she's doing.
That's right.
And that's why it's so important to put people around you that are good at what you're not good at.
That's right.
But it starts with an understanding and recognition of what you are and an honesty of what you are.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And a lot of people don't want to do that.
That's exactly
because they look at, especially men, because we look at it, it's like, well, I'm good at everything.
Right.
If I'm a failure, if I'm not good at something. No, man. It's not.
Tell folks, outsource your ignorance.
Thank you.
You know, it's just like, yeah, I could cut the grass, but I ain't gonna cut as well as he is. I'm not gonna put as much time into it because I got something else I need to be doing. You know, and so
you keep telling your wife that.
That's right. That's right. I still cut the grass.
I was gonna say, you keep telling your wife that.
All right. So now Kentucky, great experience, great infrastructure. What led you to, you know, I know the interaction with German Towns, but prior to that, you know, you could have said, you know, we got a lot going on. I'm just getting rolling. Let me revisit this a later time. What led you to get more proximate to the opportunity?
My dad. So my dad was living in Tuscaloosa. He had moved back to Tuscaloosa. My mom had passed in 2000. He had moved back to Tuscaloosa. We're like this, right? We had a great relationship. And the thought, he was getting older, and the thought of, and I would call him, hey man, what do you think? And he would say, I think you really need to consider this, man. He said, I went back to my alma mater, Kentucky, as the athletics director. He said, I think your calling is as an athletics director. He said, you got a gift there. And he said, I think you need to. And so as I'm thinking through this process and listening to him, and then also thinking selfishly, it's an opportunity for me to be closer to him as he gets older. And it was a God thing, to be honest with you, because it was perfect, because he eventually gets sick, has surgery, and the last 3 years of his life when he was struggling, man, I was right there.
Right.
And so that part of it for me was, man, I knew this was where I was supposed to be. And I would tell you that it's not everything at Sanford has been perfect, but from a career standpoint, it's been the most rewarding part of my career because I get to interact with people like you. I get to feel like we're making a difference. Even we made a difference at Sanford.
Absolutely.
What Sanford, and it's not me, it's people around us. But what Sanford was in 2011, it's not the same in 2025. Right. Beck Taylor and what he's done at this place, oh my goodness. And athletics has played a role in that.
Right.
So at Nike, you didn't really get to make that big of an impact. I mean, it was I joke all the time, we went from a $3 billion company to a $9 billion company, like I had something to do with that. Kentucky basketball was great before, right?
Right.
But to be a part of something where you've had a tremendous impact is special.
Right. What was your approach when looking at a job? So there was the people aspect of it, right? And knowing that, okay, this is the type of fruit that's coming out of here. I definitely want to be a part of the future.
Yeah.
How did you assess the university in regards of like, all right, is this, or really the athletic department alongside the university, is this something I want to embark on? Knowing your financial background and also knowing some of the responsibility that comes with running the athletic department.
Yeah, financially, it probably wasn't a great move. Right. I mean, we got what we were doing just in camps and clinics at Kentucky alone. So financially, it probably wasn't a great move. I'm a big believer, and this is probably not what you want to share with some of your clients. I'm a big believer in gut instincts.
Yeah.
I just feel like, man, sometimes when you know, you know.
Right.
And my gut instincts have not ever really led me wrong. Right. I have refused to listen to my gut instincts at times and made decisions. I've done that in hiring coaches and gone back and go, man, it was right there. Why didn't I listen to him? So my gut instincts were telling me that this was the right move at the right time. I felt like not only could I be good for Sanford, I felt like Sanford could be good for me. And I always believed in myself enough to know that if I took the risk and maybe took a pay cut, I was going to, if it didn't work, I was talented enough that I could find something else. That didn't mean it's over. Again, I go back to what I truly believe you learn more from screwing up than you do from successes.
That's right.
And so if it had failed, it's kind of like hiring Bucky McMillan. I told Bucky McMillan, I said, Bucky, here's what's going to happen. You're either going to be really good and we're both going to look good, or you're going to suck and I'm going to get fired. and I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine with that. Right. And so, because you got to be willing to fail.
Right.
And it's, I read something a long time ago, talk about always failing forward. And so I knew that if I screwed it up, if it wasn't good, if it didn't work, if I didn't like it, there was always something else. There's always other doors.
Right. I love that. Is there, could you speak to and a lot of this has probably been coming to light due to the whole name, image, and likeness, all the house settlement and all this ambiguity, confusion, frustration, adjustments. It's really forced not only the audience, but also athletic departments, colleges, and universities to really hone in on the business model of the athletic department. Could you just speak high level? This is how athletic departments function. Alongside, this is how they generate revenue. This is how the expense structure, because I think this will help, folks start to internalize that it's a business. Yeah,
it is a business. Now, I will tell you, it's not a very well-run business. We make decisions that you would not make if it were your business. The majority of our sports, with the exception of football and men's basketball, and even at our level, those sports, there's only one sport that really produces revenue, and that's men's basketball because of the post. You wouldn't have parts of your business that were losing revenue.
That's exactly right.
Right. And so it's not a very well run business. And so you have to understand that it's part of a bigger ecosystem with higher education. Higher education is very interesting because higher education, anytime you give, boy, I hope my president doesn't watch it. Actually, I hope our faculty doesn't watch it. So if you watch it, I do. But tenure is an interesting thing to me, right? Because when you have tenure as a faculty, which basically you still get fired, but it means, you kind of have earned it. And that to me is kind of interesting. You eat what you kill.
That's right.
And so higher education is interesting. It's I wouldn't say it's you're dependent on tuition revenue, you're dependent on philanthropy. And in some cases, unless you're a private institution, you're dependent on state funding. And so those are your sources of funding. Well, those are challenging because, you're depending on 18, 19-year-old kids to fund the tuition part of it. And then philanthropies can be, when the market's good, the philanthropy's good. When the market's bad, it's not. And then we all know about our government. I mean, that's really a well-run, smooth machine.
Right. Yeah. Talk about being efficient.
Yeah, really efficient. So higher education itself. So for me, the way I try to approach it is, okay, what does the university need out of athletics? How can the tail doesn't wag the dog at our school. How can athletics benefit the university? So for me, it's very simple. It's about male enrollment. We need more males, right? Stanford University, 65% female. So we can increase male enrollment. We need more diverse enrollment. Athletics can play that role. We're the front porch of the institution, but you never see a front porch detached from the house. Right? So it's important that what we do, we represent the institution and the mission of the institution. Now, at the bigger schools, that's not necessarily the case. It should be, but we've gotten away from that because people have gotten so greedy. It's all about money. And we keep blaming the kids. We keep looking at the student athletes. Man, the student athletes are mirroring and modeling what we do. There's an old saying, my dad used to say it all the time, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Well, what we've done is we've taken all this money in from television rights. We've taken money in from all these different people. We've let donors dictate how we run our business. And so now that athletic department, that porch is detached from the university. And that's a failure for success. It's not sustainable. So right now, what you're seeing those bigger schools, and it's not all the Power 4 schools, because not all of them can survive, but you're seeing the really big schools are pro athletics. That's what they are. And we've devalued the degree. We've devalued the education. That's what scares the hell out of me, Cooper, is that the degree is like, well, we'll do it online. We'll do that. We've devalued it.
That's right.
We're giving away degrees. And so now you're going to have this generation of all these unbelievably bright, sharp student athletes that are going to come out and not know what the heck they're going to do when the air comes out of the ball.
Exactly right. Like, which alumni program do you go to? If you're at 3 different schools,
that's it, man.
If guys are in the league, what are they going to say? Tennessee, Sanford, like you're going to name all the schools, like which? So how is it? I know that the athletic department has made some incredible decisions in regards of coaches. So knowing that there is this world in which student athletes are starting to prioritize the college or university they're going to based off of how much money they need. So even we're inside schools, as you know, we teach all the time. And I remember being inside of high school and they were like, well, Mr. Cooper, how did you select the school? Like, I was like, well, I went on a visit, they were like, did
pretty
you
girl.
That's right. And I was like, I'm going to come back and do that.
That's right.
I was like, I didn't have the opportunity to make money. And the way that they were prioritizing things, and no knock to them, what school gonna give me the most money?
That's right.
Right. And so, of course, that doesn't help with the sustainability and creating a culture. You can create the culture, but maintaining the culture established by the coach, but also upheld by the players, right? And that's the benefit of alumni coming back and saying, like, this ain't it. We got to tighten up. So how has it been assessing the new leaders that you're going to bring in and lead these young men and women, knowing that name, image, and likeness is playing a role in how they're even codifying decisions?
I've always had 3 C's that I focused on when hiring, and it doesn't matter whether it's a coach, whether it's a staff member, whether it's in business, whether it's in higher education. It's character. Number 1, it starts with character. And if you're looking to hire somebody in a leadership role and they don't have character, then you go on and cross them off and move to the next one. The next is competency. They've got to be able to do the job. So they have to understand the job. They got to be able to do the job. They got to have that skill set. And then the third is chemistry. Because there's a lot of people out there, especially at a place like Sanford, that have great character. That have great competency, but you know what? The chemistry, the fit, being at Sanford may not work for them. And so I never waver from those 3 C's. I always stick to those, knowing that person, if they have character, that they're going to have their core values, and those values, regardless of whether we're paying student athletes or whether those things aren't going to change. So that culture that you talked about is innate because it's already within that person. We use culture as a punchline now. And culture's what it is, it's your core values.
That's it.
It's culture is what you'll put up with,
Yeah.
what you'll tolerate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if your core values are screwed up,
Yep.
then I don't give a crap how many games you win and all that. Your culture is not going to be right.
That's right.
So to me, we got to get away from that culture word and get into this core value. Well, what are your core values?
Yeah.
Because again, culture to me, it's what you tolerate.
That's right.
And so I always look for leaders that are not going to tolerate things that we don't stand for as an institution. And that means you're going to miss out on some good players. So that competency piece, they better know how to coach a little bit, right?
That's right.
Like the basketball coach I just hired, Lenny Acuff, guy can really coach.
Yeah.
We may not get the same talent that Bucky McMillan got, but that dude can really coach.
Right.
And so, and he's not going to waver from his core values. Not to say Bucky did. Bucky was great.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question,
Absolutely.
but I just think it's not everybody is meant to be at a certain place.
Yeah.
Just because you're talented doesn't mean you're that fit, that
Yeah.
chemistry. And so I think that's really important to evaluate those things.
I think it may have been Warren Buffett. He was talking about, as he assessed different CEOs to see if he's going to invest in their companies, he talks about the 3 I's. So I want to make sure that they have the intellect.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that they have integrity.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that they can take the initiative.
Yeah.
And so, just as you mentioned,
Kind of like the 3 C's.
yeah, I like.
I mean, it's Warren Buffett. Just a little bit smarter than I am.
and whenever I forget where I get it from, I'm like, I said that.
I said that,
But I do like the 3 C's to your point,
absolutely.
because it's there are these things in life that are principled, right?
Yeah.
And principles don't change, but facts can change.
Absolutely.
Right. And so as you think about some of the best practices that you brought to the college and university, one of the things that I was very frustrated about while I was there is that we were sponsored by Russell.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, we said, Coach, what's up with this swoosh, man? And so one thing that occurred after I graduated is that they were able to walk around with that good old
When did you
Nike
get out of there? 2011. Oh yeah, you were part.
Yeah.
So we got out of the Russell contract. We still had a Russell contract. That's still Larry Long and a couple of Marvin Julick went with me to meet with Russell. They were like, man, we can't believe you just said that to those guys. I just told them, I said, look, man, we got 5 teams that won championships this year. Not a one of them was wearing Russell.
Yeah.
Because y'all didn't invest in us. Y'all didn't pay attention to us. You didn't know who our student athletes were.
Right.
And so anyway, but
sorry
sorry about that.
It's all good.
I'll get you a Nike. I see that Russell jersey up there. I'll get you a Nike jersey with Coop on it. Make you feel a little bit better.
I'll feel a lot better. I'll feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And there was another aspect that you negotiated on behalf of the university, because I believe we were not on ESPN3 until you got there. Can you share how all of that manifested?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was what we tried to do when we got there was we tried to get people to understand. And it started at the top with the president, because I'm not sure he really understood it, but that we were not a high school program. This was Division I college athletics. And I kept saying that over and over. This is a Division I college athletics program, and we can't run it as a Division II or Division III or a high school program. And these are what we need to be successful to be a Division I athletic program. And I never relinquished from that message. We're Division I, let's run it like, and there were some people that didn't make it very long under when I first got there, because they didn't want to put in the effort and the work and the grind and the grit and all the things that it was going to take to be a Division I athletic program, and not just be a Division I, but be a successful. Yeah. And what I'm most proud of is we've won, with the exception of the thing I'm most proud of is that we've had the highest graduation success rate in the 15 years since I've been there. That's in the Southern Conference. And we've been the tops in the state of Alabama. We're one of the top 3 in the nation, 97 to 98% every year. Yep. I'm proud of that. But the other thing I'm really most proud of, because I'm competitive, as you are, I'm proud that we won more Southern Conference championships in the last decade than any other school in the Southern Conference.
Wow.
And so that's saying that all those things that we did to be successful are starting to pay off, that we are winning championships and we're doing it the right way.
Yeah. What have you seen has been the biggest shift pre-NIL to now?
It's harder for us to get and keep players. And so the gap of money is so big right now that the guys that we used to could get, and maybe they'd only be here a year, they would come and then they would leave and go somewhere else. That's going to be harder and harder for even get those guys, right? Especially in football. It really hurts you in football, right? Because it used to be when you were playing, and until the NIL, you were an FBS player. Yeah. You could transfer down to FCS and play immediately. Yep. Well, now you can go from FBS to FBS. You can transfer from Alabama to Auburn and play immediately. You don't have to go down to play. And so, I wonder if guys like Michael Pierce and
Yeah.
Some of those others transferred in would have transferred in if they couldn't play
Bradbury.
immediately.
Yep.
Bradbury, exactly.
Yep.
And so that's been the biggest shift. What we've got to be comfortable with now is being comfortable in winning Southern Conference championships.
Right.
Competing on the national level, I
Right.
mean, if we're going to be real, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And so we just got to be able to really understand who we are, be comfortable with who we are, be competitive with who we are, and be competitive within our stage. Now, on that national level, I think what they've got to figure out is, do they want to be a professional sports franchise and have employees and a collective bargaining agreement, which is the only way this is going to work, or do they want to continue to go down a rabbit hole that's not sustainable?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't think we have leadership in place that will make that decision, because everybody's looking out for mine.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking out for mine.
Right. I don't know if that CBA is unavoidable. You know, to your point, it's just, we got to call it what it is and adjust.
Has to.
Right.
Can't exist.
So, because, you know, even looking at from a macro standpoint, how technology, artificial intelligence is starting to impact some of the jobs that would have been made available for those that play a couple of years, even may go to the league and have a short stint in the league. Now, so I think that there is going to be this collision of opportunities that are not available, aligned with kids that are jumping in the portal with misinformation, because there's kids jumping in the portal,
no place to go,
and they got nowhere to go.
That's right.
And now you're back home, and the thing that you probably would have done to be able to fulfill your time, that's not available because the robot's doing it. And so the need for them to be able to really understand the true value of an education, the relationships that they're able to get at the education, because that's really what it's all about, right? Like, you know, going to school, unless you're there to, you know, become a doctor or an attorney. You know, I know most things that I'm doing as a father, I'm like, let me get on YouTube and see what I need to. I'm gonna put this cabinet together. I mean, you know,
that's right. Yeah.
And so there is a ton of what they will be able to benefit from based off who they sit next to, based off who they held the door for.
Absolutely.
Right. And so they're missing out on those opportunities because they're like, all right, I'll just do it online. And now the richness of that degree, you're only getting 10% of it because of your inability to really see it.
Getting a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Without any relationships, without any stories, without any experience.
That's exactly right.
That's what scares me about all this. But we're our own worst enemies.
Right.
And when we lost that O'Bannon case, when the NCAA made a decision to say, you know what, we're going to fight it. We've never lost. We got arrogant. Right. We've never lost an antitrust case. We're going to fight this. And when they lost it, they lost antitrust status. And now we can't put the genie back in the bottle. So now the only way to move this thing forward is to come up with some kind of employment relationship or collective bargaining, and have kids make a decision whether they want to go to school. And if they do, that's fine. Go to school, pay for your school. You're going to get paid to do that, but pay your sport, but you get student loans like everybody else.
That's right. Or
you got enough money that you're making.
Right.
Or just don't go to school at all.
That's right.
And then what'll happen is those kids that really value in education will come back and get that education.
Right.
And I hope what happens is that at some point the greed will, because things are cyclical, right?
Yep.
It's going to change back around. We all, you know, it's like, I never forget my parents freaking out in the 60s and 70s when all the drugs and the protests and the Vietnam War and everything. Oh, it'll never get any worse than this. And then, you know, and then now it's I mean, there's always something that's going to come along, and we figure out ways to survive and get through it. But man, you can't devalue that education. Right. And that's what scares the hell out of me with all this stuff right now.
Yeah. All the wins that you've been able to witness and establish at Sanford, do you have a favorite? Is there a particular moment, and we still got time because I know we're still at the university, but is there a particular moment as you've been at Sanford? Is it a game that you've been able to witness? Is it, just knowing who you are, it probably may be seeing someone walk across the stage and they graduate. Yeah. What we'll just say top three may stick out the most to you?
Well, I'll start with games. When we beat Mercer to win the Southern Conference, go undefeated and win the Southern Conference championship several years ago. And a funny story, I'm standing down on the sideline with Dr. Taylor, our president, and his daughter, Chloe, who was like a junior in high school at the time, sophomore in high school. And when we win it, I'm like turning around thinking I'm going to get a hug or something. And I'm like, he's hugging his daughter. I'm like looking for I'm like that Jim Valvano back in 1983. I'm like looking for somebody to hug. That was fun. winning the SoCon basketball tournament and sitting, I'll never forget it. I was sitting with a guy that I played with who's become a good donor at the school, a guy named Tim Francis, great friend. We played together at Sanford.
Yeah.
And we're sitting at the table and we're watching us win the basketball game to go on to the NCAA tournament where we got screwed by the referees against Kansas game. But we're sitting there at the table and as the game's winding down and it's obvious, and I'm like, I was just kind of numb. I didn't have a feel. I mean, it was like, you know, you just, I was excited, but I was like emotionless. And he goes, "You all right, man?" And I looked at him and I said, I'm not going to say exactly what I said, but I said, "Frickin' high school basketball coach."
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody told me. I was crazy for hiring a high school basketball. I said, "Frickin' high school." High school coach. And he just started dying laughing. But I didn't remember. I tell you another memory that was probably one of the most, that has been one of the things I've really enjoyed. And you know this guy, but when Corey Green came to work for us. And having that conversation with him about coming back to a place that he didn't really enjoy.
That's right.
At the time, he appreciated it later. And seeing him come back and the impact that he's having on not only our current student athletes, but our former student athletes, that's been a real, that's been something that's kind of a full circle moment for me.
Yeah. Shout out C Green. OG, triple OG as well. Another legend. We have to get him on the pod as well. You mentioned a game that there was a ton of disappointment, and I want to parallel another game. I believe it was the Sweet 16. Alabama is playing Indiana. It was in 1976. Doing just a little bit of research, I believe I heard you say that was one of the worst calls, may have been the worst call in college basketball history. I would say probably
no bias in that.
That's right.
That comment at all.
I would say number 2 is what we're just referencing. So can you give your perspective in 1976 and essentially just what I'm talking about? And then parallel back to
so 1976 Alabama, my dad's Alabama team, great team. Leon Douglas, Reginald King, T.R. Dunn, man, these dudes could play. They were all Birmingham, Alabama kids.
Let's go.
And Indiana, who was undefeated, who was the standard of college basketball, and they're playing in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm sitting next to Bear Bryant's wife, who doesn't know anything about basketball, but she was a lot of fun. And Alabama's got the game won. And there's a play near the end of the game where Kent Benson, their big center, is going down and he's going in for a layup. And, or no, it's the other way around. Leon's going in for a layup and Kent Benson bumps him and they called a charge on Leon Douglas. It was his 5th foul. It was a terrible call. It was such a bad call that Bear Bryant's wife, who didn't know jack about basketball, she's like cussing, going, "That sucked. That's a terrible call." So everybody, but it changed. It literally changed because that was my dad's chance and opportunity because I hurt for him to go to the Final Four. And if they'd have beaten Indiana, they would have run the tables. They beat North Carolina that year about 30 something. I mean, they were really good. So that one hurt. And then you flash forward to the all ball where we're playing Kansas. And that call, and that was miserable. And I'm on the basketball committee. And so I'm sitting here watching the game from afar because I'm in Memphis doing the committee work and I can't say anything. But those were 2 tough ones, man.
I love it. So perfect layup. Speaking about your role, so I believe 2025, 2026, you were the vice chair of the NCAA Division I's men's basketball committee.
This year,
And then beginning in 2026, starting 2027, you are now the chairman.
I'll be the chair, It's a little scary.
Congratulations.
I don't know, man. You may be that guy that when all of a sudden, I was watching Hunter Yurchek the other day with the CFP and he's on there and they're grilling him all these questions. I'm going, that's going to be me in a year from now. I don't know if I'm looking forward to that or not, but no, it's exciting, man. You know, and here's why it's exciting. I go back to my dad. He's my hero. We're the only father-son duo that's ever done that. And so, incredible. So for me, this is kind of like the crowning point. Okay. So it's cool.
Tell me about that role. What are you responsible for?
So the chair. So you got a committee made up of 12 people, and it's athletic directors and conference commissioners throughout the 365 Division I athletic program. So there's only 12 of us. So it's a very prestigious committee to be on. I was just honored to be selected, and then the committee itself, those 12 people vote on who they want as the chair. And so for them to vote me as the chair meant that they, they have confidence that I know what I'm doing. I'm a little freaked out about it, to be honest with you, because again, you're going to be in front of 1 billion people on CBS having to talk about why this team didn't get in and why you chose this team. And we'll see.
Built for it.
But basically, you're the spokesman. You're the spokesperson for the committee.
Right.
You do all the media stuff. You have to be the one that's in front of the camera, telling them why or why not. There's a lot more goes into being on the committee than just selecting and seating the teams, ticket prices, sites, Final Fours, how we set up the Final Four. So there's a lot of other things that take place in that committee room than just, okay, we select the teams and we seed the teams,
right?
Which I had no idea. The multimedia rights deal, the deal we've got with CBS and Warner Brothers Discovery, you're right in the middle of those negotiations. So it's running the basketball. It's being in charge of and running the basketball tournament, which is it's 92% of the revenue for the NCAA. See, the college football playoffs are outside the NCAA. So this is the revenue driver for all these other schools within the NCAA. That's how we make our money.
Now that's interesting. I got like 5 questions now. When did they create this governance? When was the committee?
So CFP got pulled out years ago. And it got pulled out. And so there's no revenue associated. It used to be the bowl games, right?
Right.
And then when they went to the playoffs, that all sits outside of the NCAA. So that revenue all stays with the Power 4 schools, and the Group of 5 schools gets a percentage of that. The FCS schools, the rest of the Division I, don't get any. We don't get a piece of that pie. Whereas the men's basketball tournament, every school, all 365, get a piece of that revenue. You get units for your league participating in it, and then you get units for winning in the tournament.
Right.
And so that's money that goes back to the school. CFP does not. And so that's why the pressure to have a very successful NCAA men's basketball tournament is so important, because schools depend on that revenue.
That is very informing. I was not aware. But you're the perfect person for the job.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm going to remind you that when you sit there, I didn't put that team in over this thing. I'm going to say, Coop, you said. I'm like, we're going to play this podcast back.
I'm like, well, you at least learn something.
Exactly. So.
Oh, man, that's good. A few quick questions before we finish up. And I think this will be really good information for those that are watching. As you know, the work that we do with different colleges and universities around just educating athletes, just with what they got going on, resources, but also just how they see themselves. Because a lot of, managing folks with money is managing their identity and the relationship with money, right? All the technical stuff we can get to, but we got to get to a level playing field. Do you feel like colleges and universities should play a role in some of the complementary information that their athletes should be exposed to before they become alone?
I think it's imperative that we do, because what you guys do is you provide confidence to people. I really believe that, because dealing with money, that's hard, man. If you don't grow up with a situation where you have had that, that's unnerving.
That's right.
And men are prideful, right?
Very.
We don't want to ask questions. We want to act like we got it all together. So I think what y'all do is y'all provide a lot of confidence. But I think it's incumbent on the universities to educate their student athletes. And teach them. We're partnering with Regions Bank, and Regions has been great. They come out and do some educational stuff.
Shout out Regions, one of our partners as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's really important that we do those type things, because again, at the end of the day, if all the relationship is based on how many touchdowns you made, how many tackles you made, how many points you scored, then man, we're failing.
Right.
We're failing.
That's right. That's right.
Our job is, and why I've had so much fun, why this has been the best part of my career, is, man, watching you go from this little snot-nosed defensive back that was all about football and girls and all that kind of stuff, and seeing what a successful father, first and foremost, husband, and then entrepreneur you are. That's the cool part about all this. That's the cool. I can't remember one game you played in. But I remember your podcast. I remember you talk. I remember the conversation we had after. Those are the things that you remember, and those are the things that are important.
How did you, because you hear a lot about like work-life balance. Now that is something I tell folks, I actually don't believe in work-life balance. Is more so having boundaries. Because things are always going to shift, right? And so just knowing that, hey, at a particular time, I'm going to flip my phone over, or I'm not taking calls, or folks knowing I'm not doing any meetings on the weekend. It's over with, you know? And so how did you establish, we'll just say, best practices, knowing that being married, having children.
Yeah.
What were some of the, ways in which you were able to navigate leading
Yeah.
while leading the household?
Yeah, it's hard, and I'll be the first to tell you that I was probably I was not a very good husband, very good father early in my career. I mean, I was traveling all the time. I was not. I made a lot of mistakes, right? I had to grow into myself. I had to be confident in myself eventually, and so I made a lot of mistakes there. But it's what is your why? What is your most important thing that you do?
Right.
If your most important thing you do and how you identify yourself is by your title in your career and your money you're chasing,
Yep.
you're going to be a pretty miserable person,
Yep.
or you're going to be alone.
Yeah.
You're just going to be lonely.
Yeah, that's right.
And so as I finally realized that my wife and my children were more important than anything else I did, then that just kind of said, and I'm with you, I don't believe in work-life balance. I think that's a joke, because that's meaning that, okay, we work the same amount of hours no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Yep.
I believe in quality over quantity to a degree.
Yep.
When I'm with my kids, when I'm with my grandson, when I'm with my wife, they need me. They need quality.
Yeah.
I don't need to be on my phone, and I still do it.
That's right. That's right.
But I just think that really making sure that you are, I like the boundaries. I kind of like that's your priority, and that's where you get your identity from. Right. And what I found for me is when I do that, then everything else seems to kind of work out. Right. It's amazing the things that kind of get thrown into your lap when you have your priorities right.
That's right. That's right. I never forget, there was a meeting, may have been about 6-7 years ago. A gentleman, he was out of state, and he was like, "Hey, Isaac, I want to introduce you to this person." There was someone significant. And I was like, "Well, look, I'm about to go grab dinner with my wife. Let's see if there's another time." He was like, "Well, I don't know if there's going to be another time he's going to be available, man. So if you," I was like, "I guess we weren't meant to meet. I'll holler at you, big dog." And it just, and to your point, I had to make sure that I was in a position mentally to really codify what's most important.
That's right.
And that time that we committed was something that I need to make sure that I stuck to, instead of being fickle, right, in that particular moment that may not have yielded, the opportunity in which it could have. And so that's one of the things that I feel like most, not only leaders, but anyone that has additional heartbeats that they're responsible for, just to be able to make sure that they don't beat themselves up trying to create balance.
Yeah.
Versus just establish a boundary and stick to it.
I hadn't heard that put that way, but I think you're right on. Balance indicates that things are equal.
Yeah, that's good.
And man, things aren't equal. We have to work. If you're the provider,
yes,
you have to work. Yep. You have to grind. You have to put that time in.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you have to grind 24/7, 365.
That's right.
Maybe it's 25.
Yeah.
It's 20 and 5, but it's 20 and 6, but that one day in those 4 hours,
right,
man, you are present, you are there, right. You are listening.
That's right.
My wife, bless her heart, she's put up for me for 40 years. I don't know how she's done it. But the reality of it is, it's finally dawned on me, I got to listen to her, man. She may not need the whole day, but when I'm there, she's got to be known that she's heard.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I know there's been times where I'm like, say that one more time, because I'm still running a meeting from 2 hours ago in my head. And so there that aspect of being present with your presence is very important.
And constantly checking that, looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
My mom used to say it all the time. I never really understood it, but now I do. Is sometimes you got to step out of the frame to see the picture. And so when you can step out of the frame and you go and you really start looking at the picture and you go, wow. So, because sometimes we get in the middle of that picture and we can't see really what fulfills us.
Right.
We think we know what fulfills us, but we can't. So I think that's always the key.
What are you most excited for as we approach 2026?
Watching my grandson continue to play basketball. I love that. That's the most fun thing I do, man. That's the most fun thing I do. I'm cautiously optimistic that things are going to get better in athletics.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I do think we're going to have some type of government interaction that's going to put some kind of a stability in college athletics. I think this world has gone so goofy with extremes right now that I'm real hopeful and prayerful that we're going to get back to balance.
Yeah.
Where just because we disagree, just because we're not so extreme at it.
Right.
So I'm confident, I'm hopeful that 26 is going to do that. Um, like I said earlier, I think the world's cyclical. We always go through periods that are just like, oh gosh, it's never going to get worse than this. And then we always come back to
right.
That's right.
Point. That's right. Speaking of basketball, I do want to quickly shout out Nudie in regards to 205 Hoops, Alabama Hoops. It's a incredible facility. I'm bringing my son up there. This is one of the things that basketball, he's he now in the house, I hear do, bouncing that ball all the way around. And so can you just quickly share about how it's been raising children? Being in the sports world, and then knowing that there's this phase of, all right, now they're grown, now they got, because I'll be honest, this is something that I've been working through. So, and now I'm actually going to put that question right here, and I'm going to surface this one.
All right.
So I feel like I'm a dope father, right? I'm a cool dad, and I'm always interested in the offspring of dope dads. CM Newton was a dope dad.
I would agree with that.
When did you know he was like, yo, my dad's that dude?
Man, I don't, that's a great question. I don't know, because he was always the same. He never changed. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I mean, I just remember at a young age, wanting to emulate everything he did. Because he was never way up here or way down here. He was just kind of always right here.
Right. Because I'm curious, because I never bring it home. Like when I get home, I'm dad.
But you know what I think where it all starts with is my dad. You're the kind of dad, your kids never question your love. And so to me, I guess that's where it started. As my older self looking back, they never questioned whether or not I never questioned whether my dad loved me or not. I knew he loved me. He was busy with things, but I knew he loved me.
Right.
Your kids, I guarantee you, they never question whether you love them or not.
That's right.
That's a dope dad.
That's right.
That's a dope dad. They don't have to worry about dad coming home. Dad, they don't have to worry about that.
That's right.
That's a dope dad.
Love it. And I, as you mentioned, your wife, we got to shout out Cindy as well. Cindy, correct?
Cindy.
Got to shout out Cindy. Before we close, one last question I do have for you, Mr. Newton. As we,
it's gonna be a doozy here. I can tell you've been holding on to this a little bit. I'm like, whoa, hold on, let me get some water in here. All right, go ahead, I'm ready.
It's gonna be it's a layup. It's a layup. Whenever it comes time to where you say, you know what, this AD thing, you good. I'm about to shoot the deuces. How much golf you gonna play?
You know, probably not as much as you think. I have a love-hate relationship with golf.
I think we all.
I got a love-hate relationship. I broke my driver the other day. I didn't do it intentionally. And I was like, I may not get that sucker fixed, because if I get it fixed, it means I got to play. What I've learned, I'm so competitive that if I can't play to a certain level, I'm miserable. It's like my dad told me one day, so let me ask you a question, man. How much you practice chipping? Not very much. He said, how much do you practice ball handling? I said, I practiced a lot. He said, you're pretty good ball handling, weren't you? Yep. He said, you don't practice chipping. You can't chip worth crap, can you? I said, no, that's a good point. I mean, it's the reality. I'm not going to go practice it. I play golf now for camaraderie. I play golf now for friendship and relationship. I don't play golf with people I don't enjoy. Just straight up.
No,
you talk about balance.
Come on now.
And boundaries. I ain't playing with people I don't enjoy.
3-4 hours? No, same cart?
Not doing that.
I want to hear you respond about how you hit yours.
Not doing that. So I'm going down to the beach for Christmas. We've already got Corey's coming down. You're welcome to come down. Alan Register, Lynn Boggs, we're going to play golf. I'll do that.
That's good. That's good. Well, Martin, as always, we appreciate you, your time, your insight,
I love
your
you,
expertise.
man. You're such a good person.
Just incredible leadership. And so I know that there's going to be a ton of folks who'll be able to pull from this. So with that being said, this is the end of this episode. Another incredible interview. Get your Googles on. All you got to do is just Google Martin Newton. I will encourage you to watch the documentary about CM Newton around courage and leadership. Because just as Martin mentioned, CM was a pioneer, but alongside that courage, he was able to really stand shoulder to shoulder with someone like Wendell to be able to really work through that as well and show how he could really establish policy and best practices. And so, especially for all of our Alabama fans, well, I'll even give you a roll tide, but yeah, your football team would not be what it is today. And I know y'all may not be too excited about how it is today, but the Saban era, the Paul Bryant, like those errors, CM Newton broke the mold. And so definitely wanted to call that out.
That's a great point, because Tony Nathan, Wilbur Jackson,
Yep.
probably don't happen if HUD doesn't have a good experience.
Come on now. That
So,
I believe
yeah,
was
it's a great
the
point.
USC game
Yep.
that they claimed.
Yep.
No. We need to see some black folks on campus first and see
Yeah.
if it can work.
No, that's exactly
And
right.
it worked. And so now that created the domino effect. And so, yes, sir.
You're a good man.
Appreciate you, boss.
you, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right. Boom.